here to tell you the awful fucking truth.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love
Thank you so much for your support.
January, February, into March and April. Same way too.
Thank you, thank you.
May, June or July.
Fucking hell! Horrid!
I never
Absolutely
let a day
horrid!
go by
I give you shower and you
for
snaky,
you to
snaky, snaky with me.
remember.
What the
Just
fuck
in
did I do
case
to
you go
you?
away in August or September, in October and November, not to mention warm December. I love
Half a dozen pieces of fucking
so another
shit!
year has gone, I'm ready for the next one too.
If I can be with you.
Every single second, every minute, every hour, all the whole year through. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love you.
I'm ArchieLuxury, tell me what you fuckers think of that!
Just want to, I am sure that Lord they watching this program as well because he cannot stop watching you because it's basically very attractive to you sexually, even so that he is not into men's, but eventually he is.
Lord, help me!
Yes, sir.
spent too much money.
I respect you. I will remain.
Okay,
a
I
fan.
respect you too. I love
no
you.
hard
You can
feelings.
leave now because your time
But
is
goodbye.
important.
I gotta be totally honest with you. I don't want to carry on this bullshit that everything is a struggle. I've got to be totally honest with you. I actually have a tax bill kind of due, and this money would be extremely helpful.
Good morning, watch people. Good afternoon to everybody in Europe. Got a nice comment from Neo. I'll address this real quick. Whoever makes these for Arch has no concept of timing. Kind of ironic. These are way, way too long. So Neo, I actually run the longer intro, gives people time to come in. So I'm not just talking to myself or, maybe like one or two viewers. Gives a few viewers a chance to hop in while I get set up for the show. So, but yeah, they are definitely pretty long. And I chose a bit of a longer one just so that I can get set up, Neo, but just wanted to say hi to you. We got Jonathan Quayle Higgins in the chat. Hey, Jonathan, had a ducking quality watch until you are late. I might be late by maybe half a minute or something, but I apologize for being late. And Jonathan is getting a new keyboard, a new set of fingers. Neo says, hello, humanity. Neo, it's great to have you back, man. We really missed you in the Archieverse, and you've been obviously around for a very long time. You and I have known each other for a long time, so definitely appreciate you checking in and viewing with us today. We got Durst Stiefel with the KFC buckets. What's going on, Durst Stiefel? The 002 stunner. Got John Galt in the chat. Good morning, Fikers. Good morning, John Galt. Urban Productions, Fike Me Dead. And the first super chat of the day, Neo $2 Merkin says, first battle of the day, Real Madrid versus Barcelona. Ooh, it's a good question. I'm not really a huge fan of Spanish soccer. Obviously, there's a couple teams that are pretty dominant, and I haven't really been following Spanish soccer or Spanish football lately. So I'm just gonna go and take a run at it and say Barcelona over at Real Madrid. Big Sal, Sunday morning with the Tan Man. Yes, I had I had some time this morning, so I thought, why not hop on, talk some watches, just riff with the chat and, see where it takes us. Yesterday This weekend we were doing a lot of topics like 80s and 90s, and for me, I was pretty young in the 80s, but I was definitely into watches in the 90s, and so definitely a cool show we did yesterday. So hopefully we can entertain you guys today with some watch talk. We got our first guest on the stream, and showing a heavy hitter, an Archie heavy hitter. Look at this. Your mic is on mute, Mr. Archie heavy hitter baby, but I'm loving the piece. I don't know if you want to say anything or you just want to showcase a heavy hitter for the show, Mr. Archie heavy hitters baby. But this is the AP Diver carbon fiber. What a beautiful, stunning piece. I believe this may be our friend Jonathan. Be careful not to dox yourself. There you go.
And with only one hand.
Yes, I was a little worried you're going to click the camera the other way, and then I'd have to take down the stream.
No. The watch with only one hand at the moment.
Awesome. We got our second super chat of the day, Jonathan. Neo, $10. Here to support the great conversation you moderate. Thank you, Neo. Neo came back, Jonathan, for the watch talk. I saw him in the Swiss and John chat, and I said, hey, Neo, you should consider coming back to the Archieverse. We've pivoted a lot away from the drama. There's still obviously some drama that happens, which is natural in the Archieverse, but we really like to stick to watch talk, especially on our shows here in the afternoons and whatnot.
Can I thank Neo for the membership that he donated, and I'm one of the beneficiaries of it. So thank you very much, Neo.
Of course. Neo is a great staple of the community. He's been here a heck of a long time, almost as long, probably longer than I have even. So
yeah, he has been there forever, hasn't he?
Absolutely. Neo says the punters want JHQ. I think he means JQH. But I think Archie calls you Jonathan Higgins Quayle instead of Jonathan Quayle.
Yeah. You can call me Higgy. So.
Higgy. Yeah, there's Stiefel. If you want to hop on, I sent the link down. If you want to just hop on and chat with us, we're just going to talk some watches today. And Neo says that's a sexy AP. I don't like APs normally, but ceramics are sexy. No, that's not a ceramic, is it?
It is, of course, it is.
It has
a ceramic bezel.
Ceramic bezel. And we got Saad in the chat, says, good to see you, Neo. Hope you're well. We got the General Saad in the chat. And Neo says JQH deserves a permanent membership. I'll make you full screen again here to have a look at this ceramic
bezel.
Beautiful.
I'm also kind of OCD, and my personal stand about Royal Oaks is I couldn't have a stainless steel or precious metal Royal Oak. It would freak me out if I scratched that bezel. So to me, a ceramic bezel on a Royal Oak is non-negotiable. But that, of course, limits then the numbers of choices that you have. Now you can see the second hand peeking through, so it's not a one-hander watch.
Yeah, and look, like you've Jonathan, you've sent me obviously some photos. I'll pull them up here in a second. We got Dodger in the chat saying, "Welcome back, Neo." Good friend of Jonathan's, Dodger, and good friend of the channel, of course.
Dodgy.
Dodgy, yes. But yeah, I mean, you've been fortunate to enjoy this watch. Not only you're not just taking it out of the safe and wearing it around the house. You've been fortunate to take this traveling, if I'm not correct. Right?
Oh, that has been my beater for a couple of years.
Yeah, and when you told me about this, I was a little surprised. That obviously it's not a piece that I think a lot of folks, will necessarily think that a Jonathan Quill Higgins would be wearing, but you've taken it to a beautiful sunny Bora Bora. This is one of your pictures, Jonathan, from Bora Bora, and describe kind of like you took it diving. Did you take it in the pool? Like where did you take the piece?
So yeah, the way that we came to Bora Bora, we took a cruise ship from Hawaii to Sydney, Australia. That is a 19-day cruise. And the highlights are then the stops on Tahiti, Moorea, and Bora Bora. And that was my travel companion watch. I think I had a Lange for formal events. That is my favorite picture, by the way. that has been taken on our first trip to there. It's absolutely beautiful, and yeah. So you have a 1 day port stop on Bora Bora, 1 day on Tahiti, and one day on Moorea. And what we did in Bora Bora is we didn't join the normal cruise tours or something like that. We researched in advance on the internet, and there is a boat rental on Bora Bora where you can rent a boat. You don't even need a license for it. And so we rented a boat for the entire day, which was the best decision that we could take. And yeah, we were cruising through the beautiful laguna. You've seen some pictures of the 1,000 shades of blue that you can see on that laguna. Yeah, and the AP was my companion, and of course I was swimming. I was swimming actually with rays with that watch. So I had my diver's watch, diver's mask, and the AP, and I was swimming with rays, with wild rays. Those are not the tourist spots. So we were alone, and I saw a group of rays, and thought that I'm going to join them.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice because I mean, you also own a Submariner, which
Yes.
I would people would assume would be the watch that you would take on a exotic vacation to Bora Bora, but you chose the AP Diver. Now, did you own the Submariner at the time, and you specifically took the AP? What was the choice?
I did, but it is not only a motto that is being repeated so often. Why should I wear a Submariner when I'm visiting the most amazing place that I can have, wearing a Rolex Submariner when I have a much better watch that excites me even more?
And look,
Why
a
would
lot
I
of
do
people.
that?
No, I agree, and a lot of people say, well, the APs have delicate movements, and they're not robust, and you probably would never have a utilitarian purpose for it. But I mean, you're obviously diving, in the ocean, wearing the AP. What was the experience like? Were you ever worried about it? Like, what was your complete experience like?
Of course, you're worried, but this is a diver's watch, water resistant to 300 meters, and it held up totally fine. I had her check before the trip, so everything was good. But I would like to pinpoint something. I'm just careful not to dox me.
Hmm.
I'm turning the camera on again. If you carefully check this watch, AP, in their usual lack of quality control, they managed to put 3 different tones of yellow on this watch. You can see the yellow on that bezel insert is totally different than the yellow on the minute hand,
Yep.
which is totally different than the yellow on the second hand. So well done, AP.
Yeah, and was this when you purchased this watch? Did you see it in person first? Were you looking online? Like, did you know about the different shades prior to buying it at all? Oop, I don't know if we lost Higgins there, but I'll pull up the super chat in the interim.
Oh,
Oh,
can you hear
yeah,
me now?
yeah, I can hear you. Let me just pull up Neo's super chat. $20 from our good friend Neo. Of all the hints dropped by watch vendors so far for Watches and Wonders, I'm most excited for the Ulysse Nardin Freak. Initially, I didn't like the Freak because it has a crown, but now I'm okay with it. Which watches have you changed your mind on, Jonathan? I'll start with you. Which watches have you changed your mind on?
How long is this show running?
No, we got time. We got time.
2 days or?
No. We're engaging with the chat today. We want to
Yeah.
obviously answer questions and talk watches. So obviously you've been collecting watches for a long time. Which
Yeah.
watches have changed? If you changed your mind on that, you may have hated first and then completely to tickle 180.
So the most obvious choice would be for me the Recepi Chronomètre Contemporain. At first, I really didn't like it because of the dial design, and I still don't like it very much. In my opinion, the dial looks like a tooth gap, and but if you flip it around, it's sensational. Another thing that I really, yeah, you see that that weird pattern that that frames partly the 12, the 4, and so on. In
Yep.
my opinion, it looks a little bit like a tooth gap.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. This is a watch I really did love. Obviously, you look at the
Yeah.
movement, and
Boom.
it's of course it's spectacular. I don't particularly dislike the aesthetic of the dial layout. I think it's different than what you see today in a lot of the main manufacturers. So, I like this. I wouldn't have, probably that wouldn't have hit me as a negative. But obviously, with this movement is just
Yeah.
absolutely stunning, right?
Yeah. No matter what he does with the dial, when he has that movement, he has my vote.
Yeah, whole milk. French is a second language for me. Being a Canadian, living near the province of Quebec, I do speak French as a second language. Um, so maybe take us into a path, Jonathan, of a watch that isn't as niche or obviously high end. Another piece for you for Neo that you completely did a 180 on. You hated it, and then you started loving it.
More popular choice.
While you think about it, I'll talk about
Yeah.
mine. So,
Okay.
Neo, for me, the JLC Reverso was one of them. I wasn't really a big fan of square rectangular watches online. I'd never seen a Reverso in person. Obviously, Archie was spruiking it left and right, saying, it's an icon, it's an icon, it's an icon. Um, when I went to Vegas, and I believe I was at the Wynn Hotel, they had a JLC. They had an AD, I think, at the time that was selling JLC, and I was like, you know what? I'm here. Fike it. I might as well try it on. And when I put that reversal on my wrist, it just looked perfect. And at that point, I was like, I need to buy one. I turned to my wife and I said, hey, like, I don't know what it is. I hated this watch for years, and then completely 180 for me on the reverse. So that's one of them. Another one is the Hulk, surprisingly enough. So, for those that remember the Hulk when it kind of came out, it wasn't necessarily a very popular watch. It was, green on green. A lot of folks were like, hey, this isn't going to go with a lot of my attire. But when I saw, and I remember I was buying my AP 15300 from a friend of mine in Montreal, and he was wearing a Hulk. And it just, when I saw that dial hit the sun, it was just completely, love at first sight, for example. So for me, this is why I see a lot of these pieces you have to try on in person, or you have to see in person, because you may take a complete change of heart on it. So for me, those are the two popular watches I would say that I did a complete 180 on. Jonathan, hopefully that gave you a bit of time to think about a popular watch for yourself.
So yeah, let me tell you first of all, and I really love our disagreements. I hate the Hulk passionately,
Hmm.
from the bottom of my heart.
Hmm.
So we may go into that a little bit later.
Sure.
One watch that really changed my mind was the ceramic Rolex Submariner 116610. I read a lot about it with a super case, and I really didn't like it from the pictures. It was difficult to try one on back in the days, and finally I had the chance to try one on, and I immediately fell in love with it. Wore it for many years. I think I bought her at the same time, just like the AP. I wore them both, but I really loved it when I tried it on, and I'm always defending it. I know the bracelet is a little bit small, tiny, compared to the case. But in my opinion, the new one is not better, particularly with that bulky clasp.
Hmm.
Additionally, you and I, we have seen so many vintage Rolexes that
Yep.
have been abused, polished down to the bone, and so a thicker case with thicker lux is a kind of, how do you say that, insurance that this is not happening with those watches too much.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because the super case that you're describing in the 40 millimeter Submariner is a bit polarizing, right? Like the change to the 41 from a collector perspective was a welcome change, at least as far as I saw.
Mm.
And I actually was a fan of the super case. I thought it was perfect. And when I bought the 41, I felt I had the same sentiment as you. It felt the case was better, but the clasp kind of sucked, and I really couldn't get over it. And I sold a 41 millimeter sub, and then I bought a Cermet, and I bought the 41 millimeter back. And then after you get desensitized with it, it becomes the new normal. So yeah, I can totally see that. I'll answer a couple more questions from the chat here. Captain Shitter wristwatch here. I think I know who this is. Says no 002 non-stunner talk today. I'm here to save us all from what is the nasty, dreadful shitter. Thank you, Captain Shitter wristwatch hero. We got your Steve obviously in the chat. We got Mr. Zoso, who says it's a great question. Mr. Z, if you want to hop on, I'll drop the link as well. We're just talking some watches this morning for everybody while they're having the morning coffee, or potentially a afternoon snack if you're in Europe. We got a member chat. Okay, so sorry, I haven't been following the membership.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm on my iPad, so I'm only following StreamYard. So I'm not a big help like always. I apologize.
No problem. We have a member chat from Van Lux, member for 9 months, and bronze member Van Lux says free super chat. Thank you, Van Lux, for using your member chat. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all those that are members of the ArchieLuxury live stream. We got Watches 63 says, any predictions for any watches that are unpopular now but might be loved in future years? Is a very good question. Jonathan, what do you think?
Well, that is the crystal ball that everybody wants to have. So I'll start with Rolex, because I'm here on a Rolex-oriented channel. I would never do that on the Susan John show. But in my opinion, the Rolex Deep Sea Challenge gets so much hate and so much heat, and I totally love the concept. I know that it's a huge monster, but keep in mind the technical specs of this particular watch. Today I saw a picture. I think I'm gonna send it to you. I saw a picture of a massive ball of steel that has been lowered down to 2,000 meters, and that massive ball of steel cracked at 2,000 meters. Now this watch goes to 12,000 meters and resists all that water pressure. So in my opinion, the challenge, I know that it's unwearable, but as a prop, as a collectible, as an achievement of what Rolex is able to do, it's a fantastic thing. And the moment Rolex decides not to produce them anymore, people will go nuts to get one of those.
Well, look, let's go down the rabbit hole. And I agree. I was actually thinking about that this morning, because there was obviously rumors about the Deep Sea Challenge being discontinued. So, obviously, if it's a short production run, not very loved, it definitely has a recipe for being a watch that it may not be appreciated or loved, but definitely has some quote unquote investment potential. But when I think about something that's, we got to start this question with what's unpopular today, right? And I don't think it's any surprise that dress watches, or what people call dress watches, circular watches on a strap, are unpopular. And so and I always I always went down this path around, if we kind of look at what the younger generation is wearing, and I use Daniel Wellington as an example. A few years ago, Daniel Wellington, wildly popular entry level brand for generally younger people. You don't see the typical aesthetic of a Submariner or an homage to any of these sport watches. You see, dressy pieces, or what we call dress pieces. And I think part of that is it's a fresh design. It's something that you may not see every day. It's something that speaks to a younger generation. And I think that if you think about what's unpopular today that can become popular tomorrow, it's going to be something that's off the beaten path, that doesn't look like everything else, right? That doesn't have, if we think about today, the popularity of integrated bracelets, well, is that going to stay popular forever? I don't think so. Certain designs like the Submariner are going to be timeless. I don't disagree with that. But the sport watch in general, I think, if we think about it, and if you have children or grandchildren, and they look at you and they say, what's my grandpa's watch? Your grandpa in this day and age isn't wearing a dress watch necessarily. They're probably wearing a steel sports Rolex. And this may not be a popular opinion, but that may become the grandpa's watch down the line. So I have a feeling, watch the 63, that the dress watch could have a resurgence down the track. Does that mean every dress watch is going to be important and loved in the future? Probably not. But I think certain pieces that have some relevance. And one thing, Jonathan, in the car community, they say you buy what you remember. So when they think about, kids that are watching YouTube today or that were in car magazines when we were younger, they were looking at and seeing cars that that they loved when they were kids. When they got older and old enough to have some disposable income, they would buy what they remembered, in that sense. So maybe some of these popular, dress watches that could still be around may have a resurgence down the track if they lose some popularity, in the next couple of years. So that's where I see it. Oh, we got another guest joining us here. Rancher, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Clyde, we got a great question here. I think this is a good one for you. Any predictions for any watches that are unpopular now but might be loved in future years?
I think people are going to go back and look at independents who didn't start off just being overly loved by the public. So I think the stuff that right now that's being overlooked, and to a certain degree, that's kind of happening almost now-ish. Hey, dear Stapel, how's it going? We just started the first of the secret meetings on the Etude number 2. So
I just love how Logan Hall is fisting you right away. Logan Hall, good friend of the channel, says Rancher aspires to buy the Model T from his childhood.
No, it would be obviously it'd be a 67 Mustang.
Hey, look, think about it. Classic muscle cars are, they had a big, obviously a big surge because, the boomers that eventually, got to have enough disposable income to buy them really shot up the price of those cars. But these days, the younger collector, but they're coming down because the younger collector has no connection to them.
Right.
So if to answer Watch the 63 question is really around a generation that's getting into watch collecting, that sees certain watches and they're aspirational to them, that they may see as an aesthetic that they love, but they just don't have the money today. So think about it in 15, 20 years when they do have that money. Those will be the pieces that I think will really take a big surge.
You have a super chat, Tan.
I do. I'm just going to get to a couple of these chats before it. Mr. Zosa says, I think Tan is romantic when it comes to his watch taste. I definitely am. I'm the same. Just so happens I love some of the hype watches. Well, yeah, man, there's nothing wrong with loving hype watches. I mean, everybody on this panel I know has owned a hyped watch. Everybody. Higgins actually has one that I kind of joke with him a bit about stickers. Yeah, well, we're not.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're definitely gonna. I'm not gonna say what it is because I think people have seen what I've said on that.
No, you can say it. No problem.
Well, Higgins owns a Daytona fully stickered, guys. So if you want a Daytona at MSRP, you better start being nice to Higgins.
Yeah. Try again.
Look. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we just talked about the offshore, and probably the offshore is one of those underappreciated watches that fell out a little bit out of love with current collectors. But I'm pretty sure people will discover the beauty and the concept back. So that is, in my opinion, also an underappreciated watch at the moment. Which has good potential for the future.
Let's come back to that. Let's get Neo Super Chat. I want to come back to that one because I have Clyde's had experience with one, so I want to talk to him about it. Neo, $5 US. Again, Neo, we really appreciate the donation. We welcome you back to the Archieverse. Buy what you remember explains the current Archie collection. Yes, Archie gravitates towards the same watches, and as much as we try to tell him, hey, you should try something else, he buys what he remembers. He buys what he loves. I can respect that about Archie, but it's definitely holds true.
Well, yeah, but it's almost like going back and dating your ex. And even though she's picking up the tab of the meal, it's still your money she's using.
I think the rancher is totally right, and yes, I understand why Archie wants to go back to that place. I told him. Even if he managed to rebuy his entire collection, it won't take him back to the happiness that he felt when he had that collection, because something happened in between. Additionally, for example, the bluesy, I don't know how often he bought and sold it and bought it and sold it. So there is a reason why he sold it. Also, the Maserati, yeah, that is something else. But there is a reason why he got rid of certain models. And I think just buying it back is just repeating the same mistake.
So back on the topic of watches that you think may have a resurgence. So Royal Oak Offshore, obviously, it was very popular when the big watch phase. There's all this argument, Jonathan, around what started the big watch phase, whether it was the Panerais or the offshores. Um, but when I think of an offshore, there's two offshores that come to mind. First one is the brick, and the second one is the navy themes. These are the two offshores that I loved. Clyde owned a navy themes.
No,
Clyde, do you-
no. On the bracelet.
Yeah, no, I know. But you had you didn't have the leather strap as well. You just had.
Oh yeah, I did. But on the other hand, the fuck off rate on the bracelet has increased a number of magnitude. I can't explain it, but it's just like
Absolutely. And look, the strap had a large horn alligator strap, like really cool piece.
every time you put it on, there's like a cha-ching, like pulling a really long sword out of a scabbard.
Yeah, so for you guys, with the idea of the offshore, where do you think the upside is in the offshore? Do you think people are just going to see it as, because the standard Royal Oaks are just getting astronomical in prices, and we're talking about like even the 33, 36, 37 millimeter APs, but the offshores haven't really had the the meteoric rise to fame that the standard line has. What line? Because offshores have a lot of models too, right? Like Jonathan Rancher, which offshores do you think would become popular down the track?
Well, now to be honest, I mean, I really being shown a bunch of models, and the navy themes is what jumped out at me immediately. That's why I chose it. It's not like I have son of it. Anyway, it's not like I have a huge deal of just lung or attention towards the offshore. And when you think about it, it's basically it's basically a chronograph module plopped on top of another movement. So horologically, it's kind of a mongrel.
Yeah, but are you buying the offshore for its horology, or are you buying the offshore for its fuck offery, right? Like it's design.
Exactly.
It's like, look, this is the brick, right? This is your Miami watch. You're on the boat in Miami. You're having a cigar. You're having a drink. You're just enjoying life, right? Like this, I can remember I had a colleague at work who this was his background on his desktop was the brick, and he said, this is my goal. This is my goal. This is the watch I want. And I asked him like why, and he's just like, it just speaks to me. For you, Higgins, what's the offshore that makes you
So
think?
that is just my personal recommendation. If I was in the market for an offshore, probably with a focus that is becoming a future collectible, I would have two factors. First of all, I would go rectangular pushers. I think those round pushers look a little bit undersized and they didn't age well. So my recommendation, that is my personal taste, I would go always for the rectangular pushers and not for the round ones.
Mhm.
And secondly, just like I said before, I would choose a model with a ceramic bezel.
There you go. Ceramic bezel for Mr. Higgins. Der Stiefel says the most annoying buyback watch in Archie's collection is that damn burgundy black by Clyde. You remember when he got that?
Yeah, I'm just falling on my knees and say, and yes, that is totally right. I cringe every time that he mentions the burgundy black bay again.
I think he's owned it 4 or 5 times in the last 5 years. Now, did he own an ETA version of that one? I know he owned
Yeah.
the
I
chronometer.
think he's probably on every version of it.
Yeah, look,
Didn't
the ETA
he-
version. The ETA
Didn't
version
he
for
sell
me-
the last one that he just bought within a week?
I
That's
didn't
kind of
even know about that one.
Yeah, but honestly, Jonathan, that's the theme for I think a lot of watch collectors with Tudor is I think everyone here appreciates Tudor. I have a Tudor in my collection. Everybody probably has had one at some point, and it's just a watch that people cycle out of sometimes. So I get it why he's doing that. He falls out of love with it, but he seems to like the burgundy more than anything else. I have the Tudor
Or
Black Bay Blue, which go ahead, Glenn.
well, it's like it's like the Black Bay. It's almost like the new bus stop watch for the for this decade instead of the Speedmaster.
So I think Der Stiefel means he says I have the same AP but with a black dial, and it's a phenomenal watch and crazy to see how the prices have increased. Unfortunately, I don't have the bracelet for it though. So Der Stiefel, definitely share that watch if you want us to pull it up. We got Patrick Philippe in the chat says, so glad I was never drawn to AP. Yeah, look, AP is it can be polarizing. When you own it without having to service it, could be a great piece. I've owned a couple myself. I think when you have to service it, people get a little fiked off by it, but you know.
Yep.
I have a totally different experience because we have a certified service center here in Germany, in Cologne, and I'm getting my AP serviced within 2 weeks for a very reasonable price, super high in quality. So I guess it depends a little bit. Try to find out if in your country there is an authorized service person who may do it much quicker and probably cheaper than AP.
Well, look, I've been watching the streams and I've heard Red Shovel had an issue with his chronograph. And I think he's got it serviced from AP and then he took it back and it broke within a day. Like it's just, and Archie's had issues where, it was just so much money. And it was, I think it's your miles may vary in that case, but there's a lot of dissent when it comes to the good feedback from AP service.
Look, I would say it's a little bit like owning a Lamborghini versus a Porsche. Sometimes, or very often, something breaks that won't break on a Porsche. But hey, you're driving a Lamborghini.
We got a super chat from our good friend Bondage and Discipline, $10 American. Bondage says, guys, please save me from wasting money. I keep thinking about the blue Infinity edition of the Laureato. There's absolutely no reason to own a Laureato when I have a Royal Oak, right? Jonathan, what do you think?
Well, on the other hand, who are us, since you have Royal Oak, who's anyone else to tell you about a watch that's similar to it? It could be that's what you like.
So Bondage, as a multiple Lange owner now, and I know that you like that platinum Lange one that you just purchased. By the way, great gray strap. I totally love it, and I very much agree with it. I think you should watch out for something else than a Laureato, to be honest.
Is it the Bondage? Is it the Eternity edition or is it the Infinity? I didn't see an Infinity. I saw the Eternity edition blue. I think he's describing this one. I watched a video today. Tim also did his Watchbox reviews. He does them on the weekend where he has a multiple amount of them, and he had a nice GP Laureato in the video, and he was comparing it to the Parmigiani Tonda, and just the finishing on the GP wasn't bad at all. Like I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, but come on, Tan. Bondage is more the type for a Laurent Ferrier Grand Sport than for Laureato. As much as I like and appreciate the Laureato.
Let's pull that up for Bondage here. Laurent Ferrier. Let's do Grand Sport Auto. I talked about this the other day on the show. Let's pull up a nice photo of the Grand Sport Auto. Show this tab. Yep, I'll get to it.
There you go.
We got a super chat from Mr. Zoso, $5. Thank you, Mr. Z. Jonathan, selling a watch is not always because you dislike it. Could be for financial reasons, making the want to get it back even more powerful. What do you think?
Can I address to that?
Of course.
So I totally understand that, Mr. Zozo, but Archie always had a collection of watches, so multiple collection, so multiple watches, and I think some of his decisions to part with watches were not only financially driven, but just to the realization that he fell out of love with him. When it's solely down to financial reasons, I agree with you. But I feel, particularly with a Black Bay Burgundy, that he really fell out of love, and the idea of owning one is more romantic than really own one.
Bondage says he would totally get a Laurent Ferrier Grand Sport, but they aren't so easy to get, even if you have good AD relationships.
Keep on
Yep.
pushing, Bondage.
That's how insane the watch market has become.
Patrick
Literally, we're tripping over them. Like
Clivers. Patrick says the Royal Oak is an old 1972 chain smoker's watch. Laureato is a modern take on the design. I love it.
Well, but that is a brave statement, because the Laureato came up, I think, 3 years after the Royal Oak. So the chain smoker thing and the more modern take is a little bit of a stretch, isn't it?
So they both sound like Donnie's mother. Donnie.
Yeah, that's just
Patrick.
That's just too funny. We got a super chat here from Neo. I'm just gonna pull up the watch. So Neo says the only GP worth getting is the constant escapement, utterly seductive movement in its simplicity. Guys, what do you think of the constant escapement GP? I got it up on the screen.
What time is it?
It's a bit small, Clyde, but I'm sure you could read it. I think you'd be fine. Jonathan, do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think?
I don't like those colored silicon parts. I understand the constant escapement and how it works, but I don't understand the need to showcase those silicon parts, and particularly then anodize them in purple color to make them stick out even more, particularly when you have a black and white theme on this particular watch. So for visual reasons, I would say it's a pass. For technological reason, yes, it's interesting. But in my opinion, this is not traditional watchmaking. This is high-tech, high-end watchmaking. And I'm not sure if I would pay that money for it.
So you're not a fan of purple things that stick out.
Definitely not.
Okay.
We'll say hi to a few people in the chat. We got Hans Knees.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hans Knees and Toes joining us. We got Shot. How's it going, Hans and Shot?
Yeah.
In the chat. We got Mobster. I like this comment and I like the avatar. Mobster says paying $60K for a stainless steel watch is not smart. Mobster was one of those guys in 1972 that showed up at AP's booth at Baselworld and said, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate the comment. But yeah, no, guys, it's an interesting thing on the Laurent Ferrier. I think that I've started to get an appreciation for the watch. The design, I don't know.
Yeah.
Case design, I think it's still something I gotta love. But this may be one of those watches that I don't like aesthetically. You throw it on the wrist, and John, have you ever tried this on the Grand Sport Auto?
What about the Piaget Polo S? No one ever talks about that anymore.
Let's pull it up. Piaget Polo S.
So to reply to your question, no, I didn't have the privilege to try this watch on. Swiss tried it on, as far as I know.
Very cool. Piaget Polo S. All right, let's pull this up for Clivers. Piaget Polo S Clivers. What do you guys think is an alternative to the GP Laureato? Would you go Piaget? Would you go Parmigiani Tonda? What would you guys do?
Rancher, you're not saying that this is sparing any potential value, or that collectors in 10 years will be running after that watch?
I don't know. Would we been like 2 or 3 years ago? Would we have been saying the same thing about the Laureato? No, we wouldn't have, and that's my point.
Yeah, but my point is, even when there are no watches anymore on the market, nobody will care about the.
We'll see. Then someone will do a couple of people do a couple of videos. Every time someone has said on the internet, "Don't get this watch," it doesn't. The resale sucks on it. I mean, I can't think of. Remember, the VC overseas, the same thing. Oh, it's a great watch, but the resale sucks. Don't get it. And those things went crazy. I don't even know. I don't think anyone really knows. I think anyone that tries to make a guess, they may know their own preferences. Yay, cool, good, great. But if they know what the market's going to do, I would doubt that.
But Ranger, with all respect, now we're going into the rabbit hole of herd hype. So you're just giving the example for the overseas, and in my opinion, this is a prime example of everybody is running where the other sheep are running to.
Yeah.
I never liked the overseas, and now people are just hyping this watch up because they can't get a Royal Oak, but in the end, they are not really satisfied with an overseas. I would never be, no matter how hyped up or how popular that watch is. In my opinion, it was right from the start a flop, and it only became popular because you couldn't get a Royal Oak and a Nautilus.
Well, look, I think the popularity of integrated bracelet watches is definitely there today. I pulled up another alternative, which would be the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda. This is in platinum, and there's just a wide breadth of options these days for a integrated bracelet piece that people may not want the Royal Oak. People may not want, the Nautilus. They may want something else out there at a price point that works for them. What would be maybe the question to you guys is, what is the ideal let's say affordable, right? Affordable 10 to $20,000 integrated bracelet watch. What would be the ideal one you guys would buy?
Toughie. I want to say Tudor so badly. It's just like I look at like the Ranger and the Black Bay Pro, and I'm looking at some of these. I want them so badly, but there's just something off about each one of them.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan, would you go Piaget? Would you go Parmigiani? Would you go GP? Where would you go?
I think people will start to realize how fantastic those Parmigianis are. I really hope it for the brand, because Michel Parmigiani is a hell of a watchmaker, and the quality of his watches certainly deserves more appreciation that he has for the moment. Stylistically, he made some mistakes in the past. I've just been watching the '90s show where you showed that thing that looked like the Chrysler Building.
Yes.
I think he's on a good path, and I think people will start to realize how great those watches are.
I agree. Clyde, I used to give Clyde a lot of flack for his Parmigiani, but I've definitely come to get a bit of an appreciation for the pieces. And obviously another...
I think in general, many of those small independent brands will gain appreciation over the next years, because the supply issues that all the companies in the Swiss watch industry are facing, they will be dramatic for the small makers, even more dramatic than they are at the moment. Or think about Czapek or whatever.
Well, let's go head to head here. We got Bondage, who's saying he would go for a Streamliner center seconds, assuming retail. So I'm going to ask the panel. I'm going to ask Bondage as well. Moser Streamliner or Czapek Antarctique? I pulled up obviously a different dial than the more common ones, but
Bondage, can't you get a Streamliner center seconds
at retail?
I've been offered one a couple of months ago, and I said no because I want a chronograph.
Is Bondage in Dusseldorf or what?
No, not really.
Oh, yeah.
But that surprises me that now the normal Streamliner is also difficult to get.
It's not. It's not surprising me a single bit. It used to, but foul is fair and fair is foul.
So I have the Czapek up on the screen here. So this is one alternative. And then I'm going to pull up the Bosch that Bondage is talking about here. The Moser Streamliner center seconds. Which one would you guys be taking? Would you guys be taking the Czapek? Would you guys be taking the Moser? Which one would be your choice?
I'm taking both.
Taking both. Okay, so Jonathan loves them equally. Clivers, what would you take? One or the other?
I don't know. I'd probably be looking at the Czapek. Maybe not that dial, but yeah.
Yeah. If you press me for a decision, I would go with Czapek just because of the movement.
And
the
again,
movement is
Shopek.
so gorgeous.
And again, Shopek and Moser, they're two good examples. Ones that used to be completely overlooked, underappreciated.
But now, Rancho, watch when Tanzil is now ranting about Chapek being a Phoenix brand and being naughty for doing that Patek Chapek connection and so on. So Tanzil, it's the
question I knew. Yeah, the question's going to come back on me. So personally, I'd go with the Streamliner. I think look, there's a lot of momentum in Chapek right now, especially with the Antarctique, and so I think the Streamliner would be a bit more of a special watch. Again, design wise, I have to see this on the wrist. Now I'm taking Swiss and John's word for it that it is a exceptional piece on the wrist. So for me, it would be probably the Moser Streamliner, just because it's a bit different. This is a good comment from Watches 63, because Watches 63, I think the two guys on this panel would be the two people that would be going against this comment. So everyone talks about how good these brands look, but wouldn't put their money into them. Now I know that Clyde's owned a Parmigiani Fleurier. Clyde's owned a lot of brands that are not your standard Rolex, AP, Patek, Omega, and stuff like that. And I know Jonathan as well has owned many brands, going so far as building his own.
I also have a Moser as well.
Yeah, you've had a couple of Mosers actually, right?
Right, but I still have I have the Moser Henry double hairspring.
I love their Stiefels. Like, I'd pass on both. Monster says Chapek is nice. We got the Bear in the chat. How's it going, Bear? We got Streamliner for the Bear. I don't know if we got what was the advice regarding the GP Laureato? I don't. Hans knees and toes. I do speak fluent French.
I think the advice is Domo arigato, GP Laureato.
Yeah.
Domo.
Bonda says he would get a Laureato over the Chapek other than the movement, but Chapek may not be around to service the movement in 10 years. Ooh, Jonathan. Ooh. The Phoenix brand may go
the Phoenix brand discussion again. Yeah.
But hey, look, Bondage. Apparently their books are full. People can't even get the watches they've ordered.
Exactly. I understand that concern, and people say doom and gloom, and those companies will be out of business. I had a discussion yesterday with a professor, and he agrees with me, and I hinted it just a couple of minutes ago. I think the independents have a bright future, a very bright future, because many people are going off from the usual path, and the independents will go to a strength that they never had before. So I have no worries that Chapek will be bankrupt in 10 years or 20. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get my watches serviced as long as I live. And who knows if the technical advancements gets us to a point where Marco Lange at the moment is. Marco Lange promised to put all the construction details of his watch movements to a database, so that everybody can download them and produce spare parts if needed. And I think this fear that you're not going to get spare parts anymore for your watch in 10, 20 years, you have no idea how the technology and advances in that period. And I'm not worried about spare parts or serviceability of my watches, to be honest.
All right, we got a battle here from Neo, $5. Thank you again, Neo. Battle Moser Chrono or Singer Chrono. I love the Singer. I'm going to pull up both watches, Clyde. I love the Singer, but I think the Moser is incredible. So I'll pull up the Moser first. I'm going to pull up the Streamliner Flyback. Okay.
Well, okay, guys, we have 300 people on our standby list. We're at number 2, for God's sake. That tells you anything about the watch market.
There you go. Streamliner Flyback Chronograph.
Yes, it's my daughter's birthday. I've got to go buy her crab legs and try to find a way to sit out of the splash zone.
No worries, Clyde. Make sure you get it.
Butter goes everywhere.
No worries, man. Have yourself a great afternoon.
Thanks. Do the same. Hey, have a good one.
See you, Clyde.
Bye-bye, Ryan.
All right, so we got the Streamliner Flyback Chrono. Beautiful piece. I love it. This blue dial is stunning. And then I'm going to pull up the Singer Chronograph. Jonathan, I don't know what you're going to pick here.
You don't know?
No, I don't.
For me, Moser always down. I understand the concept a little bit of the Singer. I appreciate their Porsches, but the Moser Chrono is so much nicer.
Hey, look, Singer does some excellent retro refurbishing of Porsches, classic Porsches. There's a famous CEO of a publicly traded company who lives in my town who got himself a Singer. I think it was probably either classic 911 or it might have even been a 964 that was completely done by Singer. Amazing, amazing retro refurbishing that Singer does. For me, it's going to definitely be the Moser. I think the Streamliner flyback chronograph is probably one of my favorites in their lineup. So definitely going to
Yeah, but
as well.
Alone for the bracelet, for the metal bracelet, I would choose the Moser because they're so unusual and so so creative that would be the turning point for me.
Van Lux says Singer makes a sick sewing machine.
Nice comment. There are some comments actually that we shouldn't go over about Chapek. One person said Chapek are not doing their own movements, which is totally correct, but it's their proprietary movement, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So I would say, okay, the movement is not made by Chapek, correct, but their suppliers will be able to supply those spare parts. Bondage is criticizing the metal bracelet on the Antarctique, which is a fair point. I've seen some worn Chapeks that particularly go weak at the point where the bracelet merges the case. I know that Chapek is working on that, and I think they presented an improvement recently. They also are using now screws for the bracelet and not those friction pins. So Chapek is working on that. And may I say, I've seen so many worn out Royal Oak bracelets. The Royal Oak bracelet is not so super perfect. It looks good when it's new, but if you wear a Royal Oak a couple of years, those wear out as well.
So just to kind of finalize on the Chapek topic, Dersifels asked to pull up the Chapek Antarctique Abyss prototype. Check out that blue dial.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful. And then we have Neo.
Beautiful, super limited. They're getting crazy prices when one comes up.
So Neo, you're lucky that ArchieLuxury is not driving the show today because it would take him about 30 minutes to pull up everything. But I'm single-handedly taking care of you here. Yeah. So we have a GPHG Chronograph Wash Prize winner of 2018, the Hong Kong edition. I'm not super familiar with this piece, Jonathan. So if you want to take
so am I. So am I. So we have to work ourselves through now.
Let's do it. So Singer reimagined the Track 1, takes a sleek turn adrenaline focused stopwatch, third version of the Track 1.
So it's in ceramic casing, apparently.
Yeah, it looks like ceramic.
43 I think it follows a little bit of the philosophy of the Porsche design chronograph to ensure a maximum of readability, and it's very much oriented on a cockpit instrument out of a sports car.
Yeah, so it's a ceramic aluminum black case, 43 millimeter barrel shaped case, smooth to touch surface. They're saying it's the surface is treated with black DLC coating. Let's have a look at the movement here.
Well, that is the normal movement, Agent Graph, with the rotor on the dial side, so you can see the movement in all its beauty.
Beautiful. Let's have a look at the specs here. 50. Ooh, it's a chunky monkey here. 15 millimeters. It's not small by any means. 55 hours of power reserve, beating at 3 hertz. Yeah, look, it's a great looking watch. Personally, for me, yeah, if I'm a chronograph fan, this could definitely be on the list.
I don't know what this thing at that bezel outside. There is a kind of rotating bezel thingy that Can you see that marker at
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
6 o'clock?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess this has a function. Maybe it's an additional counter because usually those Archiegraph are only seconds and minute counters.
It says that's 360 indication central chronograph.
Okay.
But it is an Agen graph. Um, look, it's not a bad looking watch at all. It's actually a very pleasing looking watch to me. Again, I'm not the biggest chronograph fan. But if I was seeking a chronograph, and you guys know I like my cars, this would definitely be something I'd be interested in from that perspective. But hopefully, I think Neil wanted a fair shot at the Singer winning against the Moser Streamliner flyback. So, Jonathan, does it change your mind here?
No,
It does not change your mind. Okay.
no, Moser chronograph with that Fume blue dial, it's just mesmerizing.
So, Jim, we are not only high-end watch snobs here. So this is a Panerai conversation question. So what Panerai are in play now, anyone? I go to the Rolex AD, and of course, no Rolex. Just wondering if any Panerai in vogue, aka hard to get. I don't think any of them are really hard to get. Panerai, look, my love for Panerai really sticks in the ETA movement Panerais. 000, 111, 112, 005. I've owned a bunch of them. I've had to service a bunch of them. Super easy to service, and just really the Paneristi do gravitate towards the ETA PAMs. I do like the 8 days. I've owned a 560 8-day PAM, and look, they're great watches. I love the design of the Luminor. I love the Radiomir. Are they in vogue today? Modern watch collectors aren't really big fans of Panerai. It's unfortunate because I think they're the one of those watches, Jonathan. Honestly, you can see across the room and know it's a Panerai.
Yeah.
My Patek Philippe, like if you saw it across the room, you'd just be like, "Oh, it's a watch on a leather strap." You would not know what it is. And maybe people care for that, maybe people don't. But that Panerai is extremely recognizable.
I have a little problem with this kind of question, to be honest. And my personal advice to Jim is not to watch out what is in play or in vogue. Try to find out what you really like and buy that, because that is exactly the problem when you're asking, oh, so which watches are popular today? Which watch should I get because they are popular? I think that is the wrong question.
Yeah, look, it's for a lot of people that may be new to collecting, that this is a normal question, right? It's a am I buying the right choice? What should I get? What is something that's considered good? And I remember when I first bought my first Rolex, I bought a Datejust. To me, I liked the Datejust. It was, I bought the 36 mil Datejust, stainless steel. It was a 16030. Which had the engine turn bezel in it. And then, I was reading up on Rolexes, and everybody's spruiking the Submariner, right? Submariner, Steel Sport, Steel Sport, Steel Sport. This is like, over a decade ago.
Yeah.
Still going on back then. And again, right, you get influence like that, but there are people that are new that are like, am I buying the right thing, or is this, but it seems like Jim may be interested in Panerais, and I say, look, for me, the design of Panerai is classic. It's an iconic watch. Whether it's Radiomir or the Luminor. But I would say if you really want to be safe in Panerai, look for the ETA movement ones, especially the PAM 111. That is probably the blue chip of the ETA PAMs, in my opinion, that you really can't go wrong. And if you fall out of love with it, you can liquidate it without any issues. So.
Yeah, but with all respect, Tan, I think it's comparing apples with oranges when you compare it with the Rolex Submariner, because the Rolex Submariner is always a good pillar for a watch collection. With Panerai is a little bit different, and I remember the story of Marco, who I think he got it gifted or he bought it, and he was really unhappy with it, and I think he was trying to sell it or get rid of it because at the end of the day he fell out of love with it. And the reason why he got it in the first place, if I remember correctly, was just because it was popular.
I don't know if he had a Luminor or if he had a Radiomir. It was really, it was kind of the time when I left YouTube. But I did remember when he didn't have a Rolex and he had a Panerai, And people can influence others to say, hey, Panerai is not popular, get rid of it, or it's garbage and you shouldn't buy it. And I don't really I try not to get influenced. I think all of us get influenced to a certain extent, but I think that what's important is, the design of Panerai, the Luminor design specifically for me, is something that's visually appealing. It's, again, think about watches are jewelry for the most part. They're jewelry. So if it looks good on your wrist and you like the way it looks, like that should be the most important piece. It's like people who buy designer suits, and I bought designer suits, and if there's no real, like, there's not a huge benefit of buying a designer suit than buying a tailored suit from somewhere else, that probably fits you a little bit better, that looks better on you, and whatnot. So I think it also is very, very personal in that. So I think he's looking at it like, hey, I may be interested in a Panerai, but is it out of vogue? And he's really asking to see, is it popular or is it not? The answer, Jim, the honest answer is Panerais are not very popular these days. Patrick Philippe says the Carbotech is probably the hardest to get, extremely overpriced. But yeah,
Yeah,
like for me,
and let me add, don't expect to make any money on a current Panerai. So if that is your focus, wear it and sell it for a profit, or sell it without a loss, then fingers off from Panerai.
yeah, this is a good point from Watches 63. Resale does matter to some folk. Not every enthusiast is a millionaire. I had a conversation with a collector this morning. We were talking about FP Journe, and I kind of compared FP Journe to my AP, where the collector was saying, hey, look, like there's a lot of talk about FP Journe in the market today around investment, and we all kind of know who's probably spruiking a bit of that investment discussion around FP Journe. And then he said the amount of money you lose, and we're talking about bid ask between a watch dealer and somebody who's selling or wants to sell their Journe. He said, look, like if you're buying a $150,000, or if you have $150,000 Journe that you bought from a dealer and you want to sell it to another dealer, he's like, they're going to offer you like 90. They're going to offer you 100. They're not going to offer you anywhere near what the market is paying today. And it was something like about a 46% difference. And then I explained to him, I said, well, look, like, my Royal Oak, the 15500, dealers are trading it at, maybe they're retailing it at about 40 grand. They're offering me 30. So there's about a 33% margin. So he's like, yeah, look, it's not about the percentage of margin that you're losing, but he's like, look, losing 50 grand is different than losing 10 grand. You're going to lose almost an entire collection's worth if you're trying to flick your Journe on to a dealer. And he says, yeah, like not every enthusiast is a millionaire. Some people do care about the monetary value that they're going to lose, and they just don't want to lose a heck of a lot, right? Whether it's maybe not a percentage value, but a total dollar value. I know, Jonathan, you don't like talking about values, but that was my
that's a that is a topic that I really have not much to add, because my motives for buying a watch is different.
Neo says, if you get a PAM 111, please get a sandwich dial, not a sausage dial. Yes, the sandwich dial is the one to get. So if you can get a sandwich, even in today, right? If you can get a modern PAM with a sandwich dial, that'll obviously be preferable to a sausage dial. At least my preference. ABC said Marco has had one with wired lugs, so probably a radio mirror with wired lugs. Der Stiefel is going to put on his PAM. And Big Sal says the PAM 111 is very underrated. Love mine. Just make sure you get it from a trusted dealer. Yep. Lots of fakes out there. 44 millimeters works very well due to the carved lugs. I absolutely agree. So, for Jim, you can see obviously a lot of love for the PAM 111. It's probably your blue chip Luminor that you would be safe in trying out. And then if you don't like it, or you just want to get something else, then you can probably easy enough get out of it. Swinging Kangaroo asks 10, are you still eyeing the stainless steel Daytona? You know what? Like I said, I'm not a huge chronograph fan. I contemplated getting a Daytona because I was like, I never owned a Daytona, but I was going to give it a shot. And then the 5212 came up, Swinging Kangaroo. So I used my funds to buy a watch I did love, the Patek, over the stainless steel Daytona. So for now, it's off the cards. I'll see what happens at Watches and Wonders. If there's any changes to the Daytona that may make me interested in that piece again. But yeah, I did want to pivot, Jonathan. A watch I was doing a bit of research on this morning. I'm gonna pull it up. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the. Oh, fuck, I gotta find the article now because I gotta make sure I didn't close it while doing other things. I think I did close it. So let me pull it up again here. I was doing a bit of research.
Dan, if you see two of me, I'm trying to log on now with my big computer, so
Sure.
don't be confused when you see me twice.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I gotta find my tab here. All right. So I want to do a bit of a pivot here into Cartier watches. Jonathan, you want me to add the other one? Is that what you want me to
Yes, please.
Yep, got it. All right, let me switch us up here to Cartier, and a piece that I wanted to talk about. I did a bit of research this morning on was the Cartier crash.
Yes.
This is it. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I was watching a Watchbox video. They did a collector interview. Jack Forster did a collector interview with the guy who runs Arab Watch Guide, and he had a one-of-one commissioned Cartier crash, I believe yellow gold with a green dial.
Wow.
And it got me thinking about the Cartier crash. It's not a watch that I've necessarily been super interested in, but I was like, let me learn a bit about the history. So I think this is a watch that a lot of people are familiar with. They don't make a ton of these watches, so quite rare. First is kind of the inspiration of the Cartier crash. So there's multiple viewpoints of where it was inspired by. One of the inspirations people think it was inspired by was artwork from Salvador Dali. I'll pull it up here. It is the persistence of memory. They thought that maybe Jean-Jacques Cartier saw this artwork and was inspired to create a piece, which is considered an art piece by Cartier, from the Salvador Dali artwork. Jonathan, do you see it in this? Do you think that would be reasonable? Is that one that you think would be the inspiration?
Everybody just has a personal opinion. I don't think that was the inspiration. I'm always amazed by the creativity from Cartier in the early days, and what incredible watches they made. My personal opinion is that is not the inspiration.
That is not the inspiration. So Van Luck says the crash story is bogus. So he's probably referring to the other story where Cartier was a Bain Noir, which was this piece, and it was damaged in a car crash. And an individual brought it to Cartier and said, hey, I want to fix it. And that was the inspiration for the art piece that could be made into the modern Cartier crash. Do you think that story is a bit more realistic than an inspiration potentially from art pieces from Salvador Dali?
With all respect, I think that is also bullshit. So, in my opinion, there is no way that a car crash could deform a watch in this kind of way. I think the inspiration was a car crash, probably a crashed car, and they thought let's do something with all watches that it looks like it had a crash. I think that was the inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's really out to lunch around the inspiration of this piece. I can definitely see the artwork inspiration potentially from Salvador Dali. I agree with you. Like someone coming in with a crash piece. Yeah, it's if you're buying a Bain Noir and you're pretty affluent, are you really gonna go to a watchmaker and be like, look, man, you need to go and fix my watch? Like if your watch look like this, like it's a little. It's a little embellished.
But in my opinion, it doesn't matter what really was the inspiration. It's just such an odd piece, which then makes sense on a different level. It's very difficult to produce. Just have a look at the domed crystal, how that's shaped. It must be a nightmare for the supplier to make those.
Yeah, look, I even want to talk about the movement, right? I think the early Cartiers had a JLC movement in them, and to have a watch designed like this to actually show correct time, to have a movement that's going to fit in the case. I mean, it's definitely challenging, and I give a lot of respect to Cartier for making a piece like this, even though it may not be your aesthetic or you may not love it. Um, from an art piece perspective, it definitely could hold some water, I think.
Yeah, and now that we're talking Cartier and Collection Privée, I think that is another aspect that the collectors are now starting to pick up and are starting to discover. The Collection Privée was the ugly child because nobody really understood it. The great watchmakers that are behind. So I see a bright future for the Collection Privée by Cartier.
So the Crash originally came out as a 43 millimeter in the 60s, which is an interesting size, right, for the 60s. And then the next edition here, the Paris edition, where you can see Paris written on the dial, scaled down to a 38 millimeter. Now, again, these were obviously not very highly produced. As it says here, the Paris edition from 1991 only had 400 pieces made.
But that was in 91. The initial Crash was done a dozen or something like that.
Yeah, 67, which is 43 millimeters. But again, right, like a dozen to 400 here, and then I'm gonna kind of skip over the skeletonized one in the women's watch. You get the Radieuse from 2018. A bit of a more interesting dial on it. Not really my cup of tea. I kind of prefer the more classic. And then you got the 2019 Bond Street edition, which the Bond Street edition isn't a limited one necessarily. But the article is saying that the boutique was not getting a ton of them. Now, obviously, they're no longer being produced for the boutique at Bond Street. But it says here nothing really limited in numbers, but one piece every month, only one piece. So I mean, it is limited in that sense, right? But definitely a piece that you're just not seeing very often. Super, pretty rare. You're not going to come across it very often. It's being donned by celebrities these days because it's in vogue. Do you think this is a timeless piece? Do you think this is a piece that would it'll always be timeless 50 years?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I don't know when was it invented? 1921. We are now 2023, and we're still talking about this. So the question, if that will hold value over the years, I think is obsolete.
Yeah, it's I don't disagree at all. For me, it was just I wanted to go down a bit of a rabbit hole this morning, do a bit of research on the Cartier Crash, and I know that one of your grails is Collection Privée from Cartier. I'll pull up their current website for the Collection Privée.
Did you follow the story that Swiss was telling, that one of his friends just walked into the Geneva Cartier boutique, asked for a Crash, and they told him, we just got one, you can have it?
I did. You don't I was looking for it on the website. You don't really see a price or even a watch. If you type the Crash, like Cartier Crash,
I think the last one was like 25,000 euros or something.
Yeah, it's just not a current. I mean, it is a production model. I'm sure you could get it, but it's not something that you could see off the website. But in the Collection Privée, they do have the Cintré, they have the Tank Asymétrique as their Collection Privée watches that are available on the website. Obviously, your cheapest is the Cintré over here. Which Collection Privée are you really excited to get?
I totally love the Chinoise. I think we covered it on the last show. I'm also a big fan of the monopusher chronograph, the Tortue.
Chinoise. I know that you like this one, the skeletonized version of the Tank Chinoise. It's not listed in the Collection Privée here for some reason, but it's listed under the Tank collection.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the series is sold out, and that's a reason why they don't show it, because that was last year's big thing. So I'm not sure if they phased it out now and are just waiting for a new thing to introduce.
I love Cartier, but I would never get a Cartier watch, though. That's a common statement. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
feel. Um,
What
yeah,
you
look,
have to keep in mind, the collection privée has only little to do with the normal standard Cartier watch range.
yeah. And look, it's a very, again, it's very niche. Not everybody, and look, the audience we're speaking to, right, is maybe not an audience that's into, the Cartier brand or, the watches specifically. I think most of the collectors that watch our shows would be, Santos collectors, tank collectors, and maybe they even think, having one Cartier is a one and done, and then they move on, right? So, I can understand the sentiment. Swinging Kangaroo says, my timeless piece from Cartier is the Tank Louis manual wind. The crash is a museum piece for sure. Captain Shitter. Captain Shitter, wristwatch superhero says the Cartier crash is one ugly, fugly, nasty.
Some strange opinion, but that is exactly what makes this watch collectible, because many people will agree with you, Captain Shitter, and that's totally fine. I hope that everybody agrees with you. That gives me the chance to buy one, then probably.
Not Lindell's asking thoughts on the Santos medium two-tone. So, look, the perspective of the Santos. A lot of people say the medium is just not a watch that most people are going to want to wear because it's a bit small. Now, there are other collectors that feel that if you're going to go with a Santos, you want it to be something that's a bit more period correct, something that is a bit smaller as a jewelry piece, and it's all personal taste. If I'm buying a Santos, I'm going to buy a large. It's just what I think is going to look aesthetically pleasing on my wrist. But like I said, there is a viewpoint that a Santos should be worn maybe a bit smaller, to be a little bit more classic to what a Cartier would have been like back in the day. Yeah, and look, I like the two tone. I don't see anything wrong with it. If you like the medium size, go for it. Size I think is just a personal preference. Jonathan, do you prefer the medium? Do you prefer the large on the Santos specifically?
I personally find the large a little bit too big.
Yeah, right. Personal preference. I've heard everybody's opinion 5 ways around on this
It depends
one.
a little bit on his wrist, I would say. When somebody has a wrist like plastic, then the large model is good. If somebody has a girly wrist like Swiss, there is nothing else than the medium for them.
Yeah, look, I think it's we asked this question yesterday. Someone on super chatted. It was a great question. And the question was, what is better, a large watch on a small wrist or a small watch on a large wrist? And Archie went with a large watch on a small wrist, saying that
What?
would be better.
He said that?
Yeah, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it because
the guy with the 36 and 37 millimeter Pateks. Okay. That's
well, not even that. Like, I mean, he used to wear 33 millimeter. He had a 3919 as well. I said it to him on the show. I said, Archie, like you used to wear these super small watches, and let's call a spade a spade. You weren't exactly a skinny boy, 10 years ago when you were doing those videos. So I'm a little surprised you said that. But hey, some people feel that a small watch on a larger wrist, especially when it comes to watches like Cartier's, may be passable. You saw obviously a lot of the craze when the show Mad Men was on, and people were wearing, they'd see Don Draper wearing a bit smaller pieces, and you'd see people kind of gravitating to wanting those pieces because of this show, and they were smaller pieces. So yeah, Fan Lex, he definitely said that. So if you didn't catch yesterday's ArchieLuxury live stream, Archie definitely said that as a response to it.
But I think it's a good point that we have this discussion. And Tanzir, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I was lagging there a bit. My bad. Der Stiefel says, I have the Cartier Tank Must Solar Beat large, and damn, it's small, but definitely an elegant dress watch. Now, Der Stiefel has a good taste in different range of watches, so I'll take his word for it on this. I love the Cartier Tank. It's a cool looking piece, but yeah, I mean, I would obviously be a little worried about it being a bit of a small piece in that sense. But Ivor says he'd buy a Santos. Van Luck says he'd buy a 36 day date.
Yeah, I want a 3688 in platinum as well.
Yeah, I mean,
always
classic.
wanted one.
Yeah, look, classic design, and certain watches like you wear like the President bracelet will make that watch appear a bit bigger than it actually is. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with the 36 dated. I like the classic size of it. Do I think a 40 would probably look better on my wrist? Absolutely, but would I be unhappy with a 18238? Probably not.
Look, the earlier discussion that we had was what will be um, rediscovered in 10 years probably. And I think some of the sins that we committed in the last years in terms of oversized watches will fall on our feet, and people will realize that a reasonably sized watch is the better choice than some atrocities that we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? Because it's even defining what that means, right? Oversized watches, because at a time, 40 millimeters was oversized, and now it's, people are thinking anything that's above, 43 and above could be oversized. I'm going to pull up one that, is I think a bit.
Yeah, we had this discussion with the 43 millimeters.
Yeah, we have a 43 millimeter Moser Pioneer. Now, Bear actually chimed in last night. I don't know if you were able to watch the show, but Bear owned a Moser Pioneer. I think his was red dial, if I remember correctly, and 43 millimeters. And he said the same thing. He said, honestly, I think the 40 is going to work because the 43 was just a little big. And so question to you, Jonathan, then is what is oversized? What do you think is going to fall out of flavor when it comes to an oversized piece?
I think that 43 millimeter, for example, that I think that is a Pioneer, or is it Endeavor? I'm getting lost with
This is a Pioneer. This is the Pioneer Mega.
That's
Cool.
Pioneer. Okay.
Yeah, it's
the
Pioneer.
43 Pioneer is too large in my opinion.
So you think that the 40 is going to be the sweet spot? So
the 40, they will sell the 40 like hotcakes. So everybody who has a soft spot for each Moser, have a look at the new watch with the blue dial. It's absolutely gorgeous. And if you don't order it now or within the next 4 weeks, you will end up at the end of the line.
From my perspective, it's kind of the style of watch you're buying, right? If you're buying a dress watch, I think 36 to 39 millimeters is a sweet spot range. I think you really can't go wrong. You don't want your dress watch to be this dinner plate on your wrist. If you're wearing something, very tailored and you're looking for a very elegant look, I'd probably err on the side of just being a bit smaller. So 36 to 39 for me. In a sport watch, I would say you're probably gauging around, a sweet spot between 39 and 42. Is probably where you're looking at in the sport watch. I think anything smaller than a 39 could, in today's day and age, be could appear a bit small on the wrist. Do you agree with those ranges? Would you go smaller or bigger on the dress watch or the sport watch?
Well, first of all, it depends really on your wrist how it's sized, but. And that is also one of the negative points. There was a very interesting article on Hodinkee recently, why those Pateks that sold 20 years ago like crazy don't reach the prices anymore on current auctions. And one of the factors is that those old Pateks are between 30 and 33 millimeters, and the collectors want larger case sizes. So I can't promise that 33 will be ever coming back into fashion again. Is the 36 millimeter Explorer 1 too small or too big? You choose. I have a 36 millimeter Oyster Perpetual. I really wanted to love it, but it is simply slightly too small for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good it's a good point. Patrick Philippe is saying obviously he himself had a Pioneer, and it just wasn't it was too big. So it seems like a consensus around the Pioneer. We've got a comment from Tobster McDonkey who says a Moser Perpetual Moon with aventurine dial is freaking sickest dress watch in rose gold. Absolute grail that I tried on and was crying I couldn't drop 40K on it. Jonathan, what do you think of the aventurine dial?
you know, I have a watch with an Aventurine City ring, and to everyone out there, don't look at those pictures. Try to have a look on an Aventurine dial. No matter if it's natural Aventurine or if it's the artificial Aventurine. Aventurine is mind-blowing. Once you've seen it, you want it. And I can understand that he wants the watch. Formally, I'm not the biggest fan of this particular watch, but not because of the Aventurine dial. I think the golden hands stick a little bit out too much on this particular watch.
I'm going to throw another Moser Perpetual. This is a limited edition for Govberg. It was also featured in the Watchbox Studios review video. Really cool. I was a little mesmerized by this perpetual calendar with a jade dial. What do you think of the jade here? The jade. Because I think Tim also said that there's a lapis style as well as a jade dial. He said the jade ones are a bit more sought after. To me, I love this green. Like, Bear knows I'm not a huge fan of green, but this jade green is just schmicko. Jonathan, any comments? Any love, hate?
I'm not the biggest fan of this jade tone. I apologize for disapproving with you, but I know the Chinese market will suck them all up, and Moser has no problem selling those.
CB, welcome to the show, CB. Thank you for the $5. My wife has the same, but in steel, and it looks amazing.
Which one?
Also
the
on
Perpetual Moon or the?
No, he's talking about the Aventurine dial.
Okay.
Aventurine dial. Yeah, look, Aventurine has been very it's been very popular these days. I even saw an article today. It's like all the Aventurine dials you should be buying or whatever. It's wildly popular. Hey, we got Muhammad Ali, our favorite Moser fan, in the chat.
Yeah, the Moser owner.
Yes, sir. All this Moser talk validates my love for the brand, and I'm glad I grabbed one when I did. Yes, Muhammad Ali definitely was fortunate to grab the Moser before all of us spruiking Moser on the.
That is a very good example. Bondage and discipline makes a good point. I don't know if H. Moser exists in 10 years, if I'm able to service my watch. If you have those worries, those are totally legitimate. I don't share them, but if you wait too long, you're ending up at the end of the line. And Bondage just said, Laurent Ferrier, if I could get the Grand Sports, I would take one, but I can't get it. So here with Laurent Ferrier, he's confident that he's going to get his watch serviced. With other watch brands, he says, I'm not sure if they exist for so long. So it's a difficult balance. But just like I said, all the independents, no matter who he is, they're at the moment discovered by the watch aficionados who are not able to get a Royal Oak, or who are not able to get a Nautilus, or who are even not able to get a perpetual calendar from Patek Philippe. And people are moving to the independents, and they have a great future.
So we're gonna pull up a watch from a friend of ours and a friend of Jonathan's, our good friend Benjamin Chi. We're going to showcase some of the Aventurine dials from Benjamin Chi. I'll pull this off, and I will pull up the jade green here in a second, Swinging Kangaroo. But Benjamin Chi, Aventurine Celestial Platinum. Let's have a look. Let's scroll down a bit here from Benjamin Chi. Yeah, definitely gone. I know you're a big fan of lugs.
Those lugs. Have a look at those lugs. Yes.
Sculpted lugs.
That is a Benjamin Chi, and I told that story. My Celestial Voyager I chose because I love those lugs so much.
Honestly, I'd love to have Benjamin Chi on the show to really, just kind of talk about his design, his choices. I mean, he's got obviously some very fantastic pieces here that just are very beautiful. I'm going to pull up the jade as well.
Benjamin Chi sent me some secret prototype pictures, and he's coming up with some incredible pieces.
Yeah, and look, and reach out to Benjamin and see if Ben wants to, if he wants to just kind of talk about the roadmap. Obviously, you can't. Maybe he doesn't want to divulge too many secrets, but
I'm sending him a link. Maybe he has time. So
Yeah, look, it would be cooler if not, if he wants to, if we want to do a scheduled show, whether it's on your channel on Swiss and John, or on any of the channels like JJ's or Archie's or what have you, we'll definitely have a panel for him that would really want to go down and understand his watchmaking and his philosophy. Because I think I watched the video yesterday around the Middle East and the difficulty of watch brands being able to penetrate the Middle East market. Because in that market, it's very heavily Rolex, it's very heavily Patek, sorry, and new brands are finding it difficult to penetrate into that market. But they said that the Middle East buyer really likes to connect with the brand, and so MB&F, for example, has been doing a great job of connecting with collectors because they feel that it's accessible. And I feel in Benjamin Chee's case, it could be a way to showcase, a lot of the pieces that you find or you've seen have a great value for money and great design and just beautiful aesthetic that, the buyers can connect with him to have a different experience than they would just walking into your standard AD. We got a super chat here from Neo, our good friend, $5. Breaking news: unable to pick up a Rolex during lockdown, Xi Jinping fights back and declares China will move to a 23-hour day. Yes, I think Archie was worried about time going to like 25 hours or something. I don't know if it was 23 or 25.
that is a joke. Now I get it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's you
Yeah,
need
I think
to.
that is Archie's biggest fear, that in the future the day will be having 23 or 25 hours.
Well, look, the interesting thing is that if they scrap daylight savings time, Archie's world time, your world time, everybody's world time will actually become quite usable, because then you will actually not be wrong on the
Yeah,
daylight savings time for a
that's
good
true.
part of
But
the year,
but to
right?
be honest, I'm not really worried about daylight savings time. I know that my world timer is 1 hour off in certain cities, uh, but the purpose still is served. I get an idea what time is on the different location,
Mhm.
and just like I said, the purpose of those world timers, particularly with those cloisonné dials, is you're traveling in your mind over that map, and you think about those beautiful locations that you've been. Tanzil, I'm trying to find a Patek Philippe 5196.
Which one?
I'm
Oh, the
59.
you want to see the case? You want to show the case back? Yeah, I can find that. Just I'm gonna
No,
pull
no,
up
no,
a.
no, no, no bad hits on the Pontiff. No,
Mm.
I have in my database, I have a 196 with a gorgeous blue dial. I lifted that from the Rolex forums one day,
Mm.
and I wanted to share it with you.
Yeah, if you want to text that over, I can
Yeah,
put it up.
I'm trying
Watch
to find it.
aficionado, who's got this looks like a 5296 sector dial. Patek Philippe in his avatar says the Daytona is perfectly sized in its current iteration, in my opinion. I don't get the fuss about being too small. Look, the Daytona was originally a 37 millimeter watch, guys. Like it was never a 40 millimeter. Just like the Submariner was originally a 37 millimeter that changed its case size to 40 a long time ago.
And everybody wants the 37 millimeter. Nobody complains about the size.
That's the thing. It's so funny. Everyone talks about girl size watches,
Yeah,
but if you gave them a Paul Newman Daytona or a 4-digit Daytona, they'd all be lusting after it. They wouldn't give a
yeah.
shit about it being 37 millimeters. Um, but yeah, look, watch aficionado. Yeah, like it's different strokes for different folks. Some people do complain that it's a tad small. Other people think it's a perfect size. It's hard to really gauge whether that's the case, and you're obviously seeing some comments in the chat around it. Um, I have seen some 5196 watches. I think I know what you're talking about, Jonathan. I think it was like a really limited run for a specific group that got that. I've seen it on Chrono when I was looking up 51. Let's see if I can find it too. In the meantime of you looking that up.
I have too many pictures on my iPad. But
Mhm. Yeah, let me look up, see if I can find it, because I was looking up the 5196. This was months ago, and on Chrono I found like these really crazy priced ones. Um, and obviously the platinum, shows up as the highest priced one. I don't know if they're still available on that rare dial 5196 pack. I know what you're talking about. I don't remember who it was around that got that specific dial. It was like a special dial made
No.
for.
It's not a dial. It's just a bracelet and or a strap. And I wanted to take that as an example, how much a strap can change the entire appearances of a certain watch. But I'm trying to find it as well.
Sure. Yeah, look, I mean, the 5196, especially the white gold, is probably, I think, the one that would become the strap monster. Is a very simple. You have a silver dial, you've got a white metal. So in that piece, you could throw on a navy strap or a light blue strap or anything really that would really bring it to life. I think the 5212 is a very similar thing. It's got a opaline dial, stainless steel case, and throwing it on, and it even comes on a calfskin brown strap from Patek is a very casual strap, and yeah, like throwing it on something a bit more vibrant would definitely bring it out and make it look a little bit cooler. Um, Foreman Colossus says some world timers are a bit like using an antique slide rule. Maybe, maybe.
Don't know how he means that. Once you get the system, I think it's pretty easy and doesn't have anything to do with a slide rule. You just pick and choose the city that you want to know the time, and you read the time on that ring. It's not really rocket science. I've always been bad with those slide rules, but I personally have no problems with my world timer.
Well, look, we're on the topic of Rolex. We're on the ArchieLuxury channel, so and we're talking about Daytonas. So I'm gonna bring up a pretty cool Daytona, the Rolex Daytona Beach. Now, Archie said this was originally a watch for women.
Yes.
Very, very popular these days. If you can get one, has a lizard strap as
Back
well
then,
as
nobody wanted them.
yeah, and like a lizard box.
Yeah, the boxes are so cool. Yeah.
Which one are you taking? Are you taking the blue? Or are you taking the green? Are you taking the pink? What are you taking?
Turquoise.
I would be. I don't know, man. I think it'd be tough for me between the green and the blue. I think that I
You
may
call that
take
blue? Okay.
But yeah, a turquoise.
Yeah, Mrs. Higgins always calls me colorblind, so be kind
blue.
to me.
Blue.
To me, it's turquoise.
I think that this is a pretty cool Daytona that I'd be interested in. Another Daytona, cool Daytona for you guys, is the Sodalite Daytona. Let me see if I can find a good picture. Yeah, Rolex Passion Market will have it probably. Sodalite. Let's see if I can find a good photo for us here. Sodalite. So this 116519 Sodalite, 18 karat white gold with diamond indices. Also a pretty cool and rare Daytona. Got Bright Blue Comet in the chat. Hey, Bright Blue Comet. Good afternoon, Tan and Jonathan from here in New York City. Enjoying the chat in an Uber. Awesome. Good to see you, Bright Blue Comet.
Thank you very much. You have a good ride, Bright Blue Comet.
The Sodalite Daytona. Now, Jonathan, are you a fan of stone dials? Do you hate stone dials?
I appreciate a nice stone dial. I personally have a problem with the Sodalite because I'm a big fan of lapis lazuli, and I really like uniform lapis lazuli, so without dots and anything, and that is where my OCD kicks in, and it's just a little bit too spotty for me, the Sodalite. But that is my personal opinion. I know that that I probably get roasted for that, but this is not for me personally.
Let's pivot to lapis lazuli here with a tantalum case perpetual calendar from H. Moser and C with a lapis lazuli dial. Is this what you're taking over the jade?
That is more my ballpark. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you got a very cool dial. You got a perpetual calendar. The way they designed this perpetual calendar is very interesting.
Yes.
Where you're tracking the months by that small hand between the minute and the hours that tracks the number, the month number essentially from that, and then you have on the reverse side of the movement your leap hour indicator. A very, very minimalist, cool design by Moser as they built their perpetual. Do you find that Do you find that it would be difficult? Because everyone talks about perpetual calendars being difficult to read, right?
Mm.
Like classic, I'll pull up I'll pull up a classic Patek Philippe perpetual calendar. Let's pull up a new one, 5327. And a lot of folks find that it's not the easiest to read. Let me just go to the website because it might just be not that great of a photo there, but from the website, just a
Yeah.
bit difficult. Do you find that this is harder to read than if we went and we used the Moser, which is a very minimalist
But
design?
Tanzil, this is a rhetorical question. Of course, it's much more difficult to read because on the H. Moser or on a Lange perpetual calendar, you have those big dates that are super easy to read. And I'm on the record of praising Lange and praising Moser for taking a different approach than those subdials to make those dates. And keep in mind, a perpetual calendar is all about the date, because you're waiting at the end of the month if your date is jumping correctly then when it's time to jump on the first. So a perpetual calendar, in my opinion, is all about the date and nothing else.
Yeah, it's look, I think a lot of folks do definitely understand and appreciate the design. Other people care about a classic look on a perpetual calendar. For me, I love it. I think that it's very ingenious the way they actually designed this perpetual calendar for Moser. So for me, very very cool. But you got me thinking of Lange here, and I'm going
Did
to.
I send you the pictures of that stacked date ring on the H. Moser?
I've seen it on your show. I don't think you've ever sent it to me,
Okay, one
but
second. I'm
sure.
going to send you those two. I didn't find that bloody Patek with a beautiful blue dial, but I'm sending you the picture of that stacked date ring because that is really something unique that H. Moser does. No, regardless, I totally love the classical display of the date on those perpetual calendar. Is it practical? Not really, but it looks beautiful.
Let me pull yours up here first before I move
Mhm.
on to Lange pour le mérite tourbillon. But let me just put these up first, and you can discuss
Yeah, I
around.
realized that you got me on the wrong track because you were talking about the Pour le Mérite and not about the Handwerkskunst, correct? 2 days ago when you made this picture.
That's right. That's right. Let me
Mhm.
just pull up the calendar here from the perpetual. So share this tab, so you can kind of describe
Yes.
the beauty of how difficult it is to do this perpetual calendar from Moser.
I think the other picture shows it better with that black date ring. Yeah.
Yeah, here, I've zoomed
So
in.
you can see the date ring, which is common with many watches. Now, the day or those date rings usually have to count until 31 because the maximum duration of a month will be 31 days. The problem is when you have 31 days on that ring, the numbers have to be printed very small. So now H. Moser approached this in a very innovative and ingenious way. They stacked two date rings over each other, which both are counting only to 16. 16 and 16 is 32, which leaves then 1 day open. And the ingenious thing is that they have a little window where you can see the lower date ring when it's necessary. So the upper date ring is going from 1 to 15 and the lower then from 16 to 31. And that is an amazing way of solving that and make that date, which is the main part in a perpetual calendar, more readable. So the red ring that you see here, the marking, that is a kind of mechanical finger that tells the movement which date is currently being displayed. So that finger moves then on this pattern, so the movement knows where it stands at the moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, like look, I have a huge appreciation for this piece, and its technical design, how simplistic it is. Like it is I think it epitomizes Moser. Like people think of Moser, they think of, troll watches like the Swiss Alps watch or the cheese watch and stuff like that. But when I think of Moser, I think of the Perpetual. I think of this watch and just how cool it is. So I appreciate
Yeah, but
you.
hmm.
Go ahead.
This display of date shows just like a book is often more than its cover. So you discover those beautiful things on the last Swiss and John show. We were talking about that logo print on the dial of the new one, which is unusual and kind of cool because just Moser does it a little bit differently, and it's not usually how you perceive it when you just have a shallow look on things.
And we'll give a shameless plug to Jonathan Quill Higgins. If you like his monotone voice and you like monochrome watches, tune in to the Swiss and John show. Jonathan runs the show every Saturday on YouTube on the Swiss and John channel. And, he talks watches, goes through, watches in depth. And it's a lot of fun, lighthearted, but really, really fun, really informative show. I recommend.
And like you
everybody.
said,
monotone and monochrome. That's the way to look at it. We got a super chat here from a good friend of mine, America 5524G, $2. Will upcoming Lange prices increase or hurt the brand? What do you think? Price increase. Sorry, will the upcoming Lange price increase hurt the brand?
What do you think?
So, look, Lange on the secondary market has been having a meteoric rise in terms of prices. And I think the brand recognizes that collectors are willing to pay more money for the pieces. America, this was a great argument that Archie and Jonathan and I all had a few days ago, where Archie was one of the biggest proponents of calling Lange's toxic sludge, shitty on the secondary, and just watches that, while everybody can appreciate the beauty, that nobody wanted. And I think a lot of that's changed. I think that there's a lot of appreciation for Lange, and now the price increases are very high, right? We're not talking like a 4 or 5% increase. We're hearing up to 20% price increases, which are very high. The question then is really centered around, Jonathan, were the prices already too low for the value of the pieces that were out there, because they are commanding a premium on the secondary, and is that necessarily going to really deter buyers from buying the pieces? I don't think so. I think that buyers, there is a big demand for Lange, especially the Lange 1, for example, that has led to a lot of the meteoric rise of the prices. So I think that the price increase won't necessarily have a huge effect, and will probably bring the brand in line with the quality of craftsmanship that they're bringing out to market. So that's my long-winded answer, Jonathan. You can agree or you can vehemently disagree with me.
I'm totally with you. When Lange started, they were very shy with their pricing, so they were cheaper than Patek Philippe's comparable Patek Philippe. And over the last couple of years, that has changed, and they're charging now similar prices, and sometimes even higher prices than Patek Philippe. In my opinion, well deserved, because, in my opinion, Langes are much better than Patek Philippe in many regards. So, in my opinion, they are well worth the price, and people are starting to discover that. Now, there will be a massive price hike. Don't be fooled. There will be also a big price hike also with Patek Philippe. I'm pretty sure all the big watch brands are raising their prices in the next couple of months, and we will be shocked to which heights they go. So Lange will not be the only ones raising the price again. I know that they did it already a couple of times in the last 12, 15 months. So I still think the watches are worth the price. Lange is reducing their number of produced watches. They're moving upwards in price in terms of complications and also in terms of pricing. And in my opinion, it will lift the brand even higher. When I remember, I passed on a datograph when it was like 25,000 euros. Not because I didn't acknowledge the the beautiful movement and the construction that was behind. It was just simply too cheap. And I thought, I can get this watch any day of the year. So I'd rather go for that carbon fiber ceramic AP diver. And that was my priority over a datograph. Big mistake.
Big mistake.
But that gives you an example. If a watch is too cheap, even the slightly educated watch collectors look over it and ignore it. So
I'm gonna follow up on that comment before I get to this super chat that stabs me in the back and in the heart here from America.
Yeah, he's right. And,
okay, well, hold on before we get into me getting stabbed right through the heart. Look, so yes, Patek did do a price increase. They actually just did one in Europe, which was not a huge one. I think 3 to 5% I saw across some models. Like some models didn't get a price increase. Like the 5811 didn't get a price increase. The 5212 did about 3 to 4%. So not as drastic, but definitely going up. And look, other brands, are, and I think America, think of it like Grand Seiko as well as doing this, right? Grand Seiko prices are going up. And the big benefit that people saw in Grand Seiko was you got this great finishing, mainly, dial and just a better watch. Some people said the movements were much nicer than Rolex movements. Arguable, it's an argument we can get into, but I don't think we want to get into it today. But even Grand Seiko is doing that, right? They realize that they can charge a bit more, and they should be charging a bit more. They probably charge less because they wanted to get their foot in the door in the market to show the market what they could do. But now that they feel that in center stage that they could probably command and ask for the premium. Now we get the stab in the heart.
A wise man said once, "It's gotta hurt."
It's gotta hurt. He doesn't say that anymore. He just says, "Oh, it's expensive, bud. It's expensive."
Yeah, but his appreciation for Lange increased with the amount that they are recommending on the secondary market, and it's sad to say. I think we are all like that because I'm following Archie now for a couple of years, and we had those kind of discussions in a closed circle after Archie's show, and I was the Lange guy, and I was the only one who was raving about Lange, and I couldn't understand the ignorance that partly was on those discussions, and now everybody's talking about them, and I think Bondage makes a very good point. Lange 5,000 pieces per year versus Patek 60,000. I think Patek is even like 66 or 67, and I think Lange is less than 5,000. I think they announced that they will lower the volume from 5,500 to 2,500 or 3,000. I don't know which number is really accurate, but Lange is on the way on reducing the number, and it will certainly not hurt the brand. Try to get on the list for Lange One. Visit your local boutique and see how the reply is. Nobody's saying Lange is too expensive. I'm not going to buy it.
America 5524G stabs me in the heart here. $2 in each price bracket, or each dollar bracket, finishing in quality better than Patek.
Yes, baby.
So do you feel that, because obviously you can get into really, really high end with Patek as well. Do you feel that the quality is still better than Patek, even at the completely high end where Patek's doing hand finishing?
At the very high end, so we're talking now a couple of 100,000 US dollars.
That's right.
It is very difficult to compare. For example, Patek Philippe doesn't have a triple split. Patek Philippe has also a weakness on chronograph still, in my opinion. Even with the in-house movement, let's not be fooled. That is still based on the Lemania 2310 architecture in a kind of way. So, in my opinion, Lange does high-end chronographs just like nobody else. Patek has amazing finishing on what some of their high-end pieces. They have those kind of artisans. I'm talking now about cloisonné, about micro painting, engraving, case engraving, where Lange is not able to compete. But we are talking now about artisan watches and
Mhm.
not really
Well, that's
heroic.
exactly it, right? Like, if you're thinking Patek, you're thinking about, an industrialized manufacturer, someone who's producing, even if 65 to 70,000 isn't a large amount, by any means compared to like a Rolex, you are talking about something that's produced in mass compared to a very small manufacturer, and thus you're going to get obviously more attention to detail. And it's really what you're looking to buy, right? Like if you're a buyer that is seeking finishing and quality in your piece, Lange would be your brand that you'd be looking at, or like the pillar of the Maurice Grossman in the Archieverse, Bondage and Discipline, who's which I think Jonathan was a little peeved about when Bondage said that he was the guy who's spruiking Maurice Grossman. But even a brand like that, right? You're looking at a brand that has, if you're looking for quality and finishing. However, a Patek buyer is also buying, in a different way, right? Some of them are buying for value retention, for the history, the brand. They're buying into the marketing a lot. They're buying into certain, aesthetics that they like. Obviously the classic Calatrava shape, or the Nautilus, or the Aquanaut, are pieces that they find pleasing. Maybe a safer bet, maybe a more recognizable watch. It all depends on why you're buying a piece, and what you're seeking, right? If you don't care about brands, then yeah, like Lange, which now is a very, very well-known brand, would be one. But if you're looking at a Maurice Grossman, for example, exceptional quality in a piece, but is not going to have the brand recognition that you get from a Patek Philippe. So hopefully, America 5524G, we've given you good value for your $2 because you give us a follow up here, $10, America 5524G, with a beautiful 5935 A piece in his avatar. That is the world time chronograph, one of my favorite modern Pateks. He says, my boutique quoted me over $100,000 for my datograph, guaranteed allocation this summer after the price increase. It's starting to hurt. Jonathan, 100K datograph.
You won't find any other chronograph in the high end that offers this degree of attention, this construction of a movement, of a chronograph movement. So even over 100K, the datograph is a very good deal. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah, I mean,
insane.
you're looking at your competitor with the 5270 perpetual chronograph from Patek Philippe. Very well known. I mean, Patek Philippe, invented the perpetual chronograph wristwatch. But yeah, I mean, I think that what America is looking for from a craftsmanship perspective is going to get him a lot more value for money in a datograph than it would from a perpetual chronograph from Patek Philippe. Now I know fella's probably listening and he's fuming wearing his 5270 platinum salmon dial. But I think if we're talking about pure craftsmanship, the datograph is the way to go. Bondage with a follow up here for you, Jonathan. I didn't say I was the first, but I am the one that made it mainstream, like how McDonald's didn't make the first burger, but they sell the most. Jonathan, I would agree with Bondage here. Like
Bondage, I don't understand why you flipped that tremblage. We've been raving about the tremblage before you got yours, and I don't understand. I hope that I meet you one day in person, and I will yell at you for that stupidity.
Well, see, Bondage, Jonathan is just sad that you didn't flip it to him. He wanted
that is also sad. Sadly, yes, that he didn't give it to me.
And Ristful Thinking says, I would take the 5270 over any Lange in a heartbeat. Well, we got a special Lange on the screen here, which is a Pour le Mérite tourbillon. Jonathan's going to tell us a bit about this piece. Beautiful design. Like, it's just stunning to me. Talk to us about this watch, Jonathan, if you don't mind.
Well, that was part of the first collection of Lange. So back in 1994, when they introduced their first collection, and back then the only way to get a tourbillon from a high-end watchmaker was to have a Lemania-based tourbillon. So Breguet, no, Patek Philippe had their own tourbillon. I'm wrong. Patek Philippe had their own tourbillon, but then Lange, out on the way to beat Patek Philippe, added something that Patek Philippe didn't have, and that was a constant force. So constant force, I'm trying to explain it very briefly. When you wind up a mainspring, the torque from the mainspring is very high when it's fully wound up. When it's wound down, the torque then is being reduced. Problem is with that variance in torque, you get a variance in precision. Now the tourbillon is all for precision, but you can you try with the tourbillon and with other high-end watches, you try to eliminate that factor, and you're trying to eliminate that with a mechanism which provides constant force from the mainspring. So what Lange did, they were going to the old chronometer makers, and they were the first to have a miniaturized fusée and chain, which is basically you have a chain which is wound around the mainspring barrel, and that chain is on the other end then on a kind of cone. So when it's fully wound, you have the chain on the small end of the cone. When it's wound down, you have it on the full circumference of the cone. It is like a gear shift on a bike, for example. And with that mechanism, you can achieve a constant force. Now, fusée and chaîne has never been done. To be very honest, this has been developed by Renault and Papi, and then integrated in that Pour le Mérite movement. But it was the first, and I find that bloody cool. That fusée and chain alone has like 600 separate pieces. I'm not sure if you can pull up a picture of the assembly of this chain to say that, or to demonstrate how difficult that is to make.
Let me pull up the Richard Lange. I don't know if it's gonna have. Share this tab.
Yeah, here you can see the fusée. Yeah. So that's what I tried to explain with my choppy English. I apologize for that. The mainspring barrel, you wind the chain around the mainspring barrel. On the other end, you can see that kind of gear shift, which is not a really a true gear shift. This is seamless. Can you get that super chat out of the way, that we can see the other end of the cone of the fusée and chain? Yeah.
Yep.
So here you can see on the lower end that conical shaped counterpart to the mainspring barrel, and the effect is then on that big wheel on that cone. You have a constant force, so the mainspring is pulling with a constant force on the movement, and that achieves a greater precision. Nobody did it before. Lange made it first. A handful of watch companies are doing it right now. It's bloody difficult to make, takes a lot of space, and you need absolute experts to do that.
All right, we're going to round off the last 8 minutes of this show here with this super chat with America 5524G, who says, "Dare I say, design language with Lange is better too." So I'm going to pull up two pieces.
That is entirely subjective. In an earlier show on ArchieLuxury, I said Lange watches tend to be very simple and very blunt, and Patek Philippe very often has more sleek lines, more elegant lines. But it depends on what you like.
All right, so we're going to pull up the data graph up down in platinum, flyback chronograph, front side from a design perspective looks pretty nice, and then obviously all the action in the back for the Lange. So I'm going to now give you guys a bit of a different perspective, and I'm going to be pulling up the Patek Philippe 5370. So this is a split second chronograph from Patek Philippe. Click on this or no. Well, you can see here front and back of the split second.
You're breaking up a little bit on my end.
From Patek Philippe, and I'll do. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying, kind of comparing the two, right, between the data graph, Lange, and then the
we're comparing a $300,000 watch with a $100,000 watch. Is that correct?
We are. I'm just from a design. I'm not talking about the price. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about, when he said the design language, he prefers Lange. Like you said, it's very subjective in terms of the design. Now, for me, I'm obviously very conditioned to like the design of a Patek Philippe. You guys know I've obviously named myself Patel Philippe, and yeah, like it's really, is this really something you prefer versus just from a design perspective versus the datograph itself? And I can't see any, it's a very subjective and very difficult choice for me between these two if I wasn't even thinking about price here.
That is a difficult decision for you. For me, not.
Okay, not counting price. Not counting price.
No. For me, not, because I personally like the Patek Philippe lines better. That is breaking news now. Maybe shocking for you.
Very shocking. I think people. Curly, where's Curly? Needs to clip
that case is absolutely gorgeous on that rattrapante, and that is a reminiscence to the '96 case, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Would you say that? It's
absolutely.
absolutely gorgeous, and that was the point that I was making on some of those cases. Patek Philippe has such elegant and beautiful lines, while Lange comes across a little bit like an elephant. And from a visual point of view, I prefer that case over the Lange.
So we got 5 minutes left, guys. If you want to throw in your super chats, throw in your regular free chats. We're definitely going to give you as much time as we can for the last 5 minutes. We got Plastic in the chat who says, just tuned in. Please,
Plastic, love you. Plastic, come back.
Plastic, come back. You can eat all the processed meats. I really wish Curly clipped you saying that Patek is better than Lange.
I didn't say Patek is better. I said I like that case better. Just for the record.
Mr. John, you're getting a lot of love here on a Sunday morning. For you guys, if you guys want to see more of Jonathan Quayle Higgins, he does run his own show, the Swiss and John Show. It's live Saturday afternoons for those here in North America. It's usually it's around 3 Eastern. And so if you're on the West Coast, that would be noon on the West Coast. And if you're in the European mainland, I think, Jonathan, you run it around like 9 p.m. your time, right?
9 p.m. my time, but this weekend I'm having a break. So next weekend, and I hope that Benjamin Chi will join us very soon again.
Yeah, look, I would very much look forward to talking to Benjamin Chi, either in the chat or on the stream.
You're trying to steal my leads?
No, I'll talk to him on your show, JJ's show, Archie's show, wherever you like. Vintinier says, I prefer Nomos because I'm a Y-Gen turd. I know Vintinier is a big fan of Glasuta. He has a Glasuta Original himself, and I know he's visited the town of Glasuta as well. So, but yeah, a lot of German watch fans here.
The boss, the cavalry.
Here we go. Zero Fight Curly, $2. You rang, boss man. Technology is amazing. Thanks, Mookie. Ooh, Jonathan, Curly's going to be running about at least 4 days worth of shows saying Jonathan Quayle Higgins abandons German watches for the Swiss, and we're going to make a big scandal out of it.
I can live with that.
When we were the old script writers, that probably would have been a script to write. Archie would not have been told about it, and then Archie would have showed up saying,
"No, please don't tell Archie that I praised Patek Philippe over Lange."
Any final words from you, Jonathan, as we wrap up here today?
Yeah, just one sentence. Mr. GMT sucks.
Mr. GMT sucks. We love Mr. Sexy here on the show. Hopefully you never know, right? He's always watching. But he's definitely a staple of the show, a pillar of the community. We really love Mr. GMT. And for me, guys, look, I stream with Archie, I stream with JJ, I've streamed with other channels. I really, if you like talking watches, that's what I like to do, here on YouTube. And I like to obviously go off the beaten path. We do sometimes talk about the high end, but for those that have seen me stream with Disres Dis, him and I talk about SEIKOs and whatnot. From my perspective, really enjoy the journey. Don't get influenced by other people. Try to, seek what you like. And if you stick to that, I don't think you'll ever go wrong. So that is it for me, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Archie Luxury will be live here in about 5 hours. So definitely check that out. Check out Curly with Watch Nicholas later on tonight as well. And I think JJ's also doing a Sunday Fun Day. So action-packed night here for you guys, for all you watch lovers, as well as those that love the drama. So we will see you guys a little later.
Can I have one last sentence? Tansil, thank you very much for doing those that show at that time slot. I think it adds great value. We had great viewer numbers, I would say. So thank you very much for doing those. And it's I'm totally amazed how you're running everything behind the lines here, pulling up those pictures, researching for the pictures, and so on. I'm far behind you on that, and you have my respect for doing that show and for doing how you do it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words. I'll leave you guys with a comment from our good friend Curly, who says Jonathan has been bought by Patek Philippe.
Dang.
Thank you guys. I'll now end the broadcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Take care.